News Central now this hour begins with governance matters. Now, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has called on President Bola Tinubu's administration to prioritize Nigeria's interests and strengthen democracy. In a statement by his media aide, Paul Ibe, Atiku accused the government of deepening ethnic and religious divisions since coming to power. He also criticized a recent statement by presidential spokesperson Sunday Dare, alleging that it reflects a snatch-and-grab approach to governance. Now, Atiku urged the government to focus on uniting the country and ensuring credible elections. He further condemned comments on U.S. trade policies, warning against reckless statements that could harm Nigeria's international relations. The former vice president called for leadership that fosters democracy, progress, and social justice. Let's go now to security matters, where Amegu Nkalaga, a community in Ebonyi State, has been violently attacked on Sunday, resulting in several deaths and widespread property destruction. And many buildings were set on fire during the assault, which is believed to be a reprisal for the killing of cattle in the area. Professor Ndubisi Idenyi confirmed the attack, stating that many bodies are still being recovered, especially from local farms. Now, a Pentecostal pastor was reported among the victims. A source revealed that the cattle were killed by members of the Eastern Security Network, the ESN, not the community. The chairperson of the Ishelu Local Government Area, Ifoma Peace Agu, confirmed the incident, stating that victims' bodies are being transported to the mortuary. The police are yet to comment. Still staying with security matters, tragedy struck in the Shendai community, the Quaanpan Local Government Area of Plateau State, as kidnappers killed one person and abducted 4 others in an attack. Now, the incident occurred on Saturday, leaving residents in a state of shock and fear. The chairman of the Quaanpan Local Government Area, Christopher Manship, confirmed the attack in a statement released on Monday by his senior special assistant on Media and Publicity, Danaan Sylvanus. Now, this statement also disclosed that the chairman has embarked on a fact-finding mission to the affected areas, accompanied by security operatives led by Lieutenant Colonel Ogunrinde Soji and his team, to gain a deeper understanding of the incident and its aftermath. Again, we're still staying with security. The Nigerian Army's 6th Division says it has successfully destroyed 12 illegal oil refining sites and arrested 16 suspects in a week-long operation across the Niger Delta. Now, conducted from January 27 to February 2nd, 2025, the operation also resulted in the confiscation of over 70,000 liters of stolen petroleum products. Troops working with other security agencies intercepted stolen crude and vandalized pipelines across rivers, Imo, Delta, and Bayelsa State. Now, significant finds included 102 sacks of stolen petroleum products and multiple illegal refining facilities. The Army has handed over the suspects to the relevant authorities and vowed to intensify efforts to assure the security of all exploration activities in the region. The Kano State Police Command has arrested the wife and associates of suspected Chadian terrorist Ahmed Adam Abba, wanted for the killing of 17 people in his home country. A police commissioner, Salman Garba, confirmed the arrests, revealing that Abba, who remains at large, planned to establish a terrorist base in Kano. Among those apprehended is another Chadian, Jibrin Mohammed, and a Nigerian. Authorities also recovered improvised explosive devices, IEDs, during the operation. Garba reassured residents that security efforts had been intensified, urging the public to report suspicious activities. Now, police say investigations are ongoing, with efforts underway to track down Abba and other accomplices. Let's talk about crisis, but in the political space. The Rivers State Police Command has dismissed reports of a shooting incident revolving rival political groups at the People's Democratic Party Secretariat in Port Harcourt. Now, the police described the claims of an armed clash as false and misleading. There had been widespread reports on various online platforms suggesting that supporters of opposing PDP factions engaged in a gun duel at the party's secretariat. However, in a statement issued on Sunday, the spokesperson for the Rivers State Police Command, Grace Iringe Koko, dismissed the allegations, calling them a deliberate attempt to incite panic. The police assured residents of their continued vigilance and urged the public to rely on verified sources for information. Let's now go to the oil sector. The Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petran, says its members have started loading petroleum products from the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries. Now, Petran spokesman Joseph Obele confirmed the development, saying it proves the refineries are now operational. He noted that products such as diesel, kerosene, and petrol are now available, creating competition that could drive down fuel prices. Obele added that the revival of the refineries will reduce adulterated fuel in circulation and curb crude oil theft, boosting Nigeria's oil production and revenue. He also highlighted job creation and community empowerment as key benefits of the refinery's return to full operation. Now, Nigeria's electricity tariffs will increase in the coming months, according to Olu Verehin, a special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on energy. Now, speaking at the Africa Heads of State Energy Summit in Tanzania, Verehin said tariffs must rise by about 66% to reflect the actual cost of electricity supply. Now, she emphasized the need for a balance between higher tariffs and subsidies for low-income consumers. The move aims to improve power reliability, attract private investment, and boost infrastructure. Verehin noted that Nigeria currently transmits only 8 gigawatts out of 14 gigawatts installed, with just 4 to 5 gigawatts reaching consumers. She stressed that energy reforms are critical to achieving Nigeria's goals of a $1 trillion economy. Now, the Vice-Chancellor of the Federal University, Gusau, Professor Muazu Abubakar, has denied reports that members of the House Committee on University Education demanded 480 million naira to approve university budgets. In a letter to the committee chairman, Abubakar Fulata, the VC refuted claims that lawmakers pressured vice-chancellors to pay 8 million naira each. He described the allegations as false and aimed at misleading the public. Committee chairman Fulata also dismissed the claims, calling them an attempt to discredit lawmakers. Now, the House of Representatives spokesman, Akin Rotimi, reiterated the lawmakers' commitment to transparency, insisting the report was fabricated to erode public trust. Many thanks for staying with us on the news. Now, some economic experts in Nigeria have thrown their weight behind the economic reforms being implemented by the current government, saying that they are essential for the nation's development, despite the temporary hardships they may have caused. And this was during a one-day engagement in Nigeria's federal capital, Abuja, where they assessed the policies being implemented by President Bola Tinubu and his renewed hope agenda and its impact on the nation's economic landscape.
The economic reforms of today, as put forward by the Bola Tinubu's administration, difficult and painful as it is on all of us, the courage to declare a fast through these very crucial reforms to address the challenges of yesterday with the vision of a better tomorrow, hence the pains of today. So the pains of today is not for its own sake, but is for the purpose of the better tomorrow. The reforms have increased the capacity of government to give more allocation to the state governments. As today, the state government's allocation have increased by over 70%.
Now, telecommunications companies in Nigeria will introduce new tariffs starting in March, according to Association of Licensed Telecommunications Operators of Nigeria, ALTON. Now, ALTON Chairman Benga Adebayo confirmed that operators are currently filing, reviewing, and obtaining regulatory approvals before rolling out new rates. This follows the Nigerian Communications Commission's approval of a 50% tariff hike. Adebayo emphasized that the adjustment is crucial for the sector's survival, adding that telcos cannot be expected to subsidize other industries. He also noted progress in resolving the 250 billion naira USSD debt owed by banks. Now, customers can expect gradual tariff changes from next week, with full implementation by next month. From devastating floods to prolonged droughts, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is a reality that communities in Nigeria are battling with every day. Now, experts say that if urgent action is not taken to mitigate its effect on citizens, the damage done could become irreversible. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more on this.
With severe floods and extended droughts impacting communities across the country, many will agree that Nigeria has had its own fair share of challenges associated with climate change. Today, farmers like Abraham Jimmy are struggling to cope with the irregular and harsh changes in weather patterns, which have become increasingly severe and unpredictable.
You pour water for 3 days, you see the water have dried off due to the weather. Sometimes you see how the weather will be cool, even from the dry season. You will see sometimes you see breasts. Sometimes you will see the well in the night, even in the day. You see how breeze will follow, will be blowing. You feel you can be able to even go under sun, after sun, and even walk into the sun. But when you come to sometimes, you see the way they hot.
While the government has made commitments to reduce carbon emissions, experts believe that more needs to be done to reduce reliance on fossil fuels and tackle deforestation.
The biggest source of climate change is how we get and use our energy. The obvious thing that we need to do is to move away from generating our energy from fossil fuel to generating our energy from renewable sources. The good news is that increasingly generating energy from renewable sources such as solar and hydro and wave have become more competitive. The unit cost of generating energy from solar has fallen dramatically.
From plastic pollution to gas flaring, Nigeria faces numerous environmental challenges, thus needing to reduce its carbon emissions. With many citizens unaware of how their daily activities contribute to climate change, experts say that transitioning to renewable energy, enforcing existing deforestation laws, and investing in public awareness campaigns are key ways to address these crises.
Waste management is a very big gap. We do not have a lot of waste management companies, because if we say we're going to leave that to the government, it's also not going to be sustainable.
We have renewable energy issues. We have solar. We have wind. We have so many areas of renewable energy that youth can be engaged to be self-sustained.
Our forest cover is being lost at an alarming rate. So we need to arrest this by aggressively pursuing a deforestation, afforestation and reforestation policy. And by the way, at an individual level, people need to make better choices.
Environmental experts say that the challenges posed by climate change in Nigeria are real and require solutions that involve both policymakers and the public. They call for increased awareness and bold actions that will determine the country's future. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Now to health matters. The Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare says it is committed to delivering President Bola Tinubu's vision for a transformed healthcare system in Nigeria. The Health Minister, Professor Muhammad Ali Pate, announced that 2025 will be a pivotal year with clear and ambitious targets set to improve healthcare delivery nationwide. He emphasized the government's accountability to the people, stating that progress will be measured by tangible results. Key initiatives include expanding access to quality healthcare, strengthening medical infrastructure, and enhancing social welfare programs. Now, the ministry assures Nigerians that it will work tirelessly to meet these goals, ensuring a healthier population and a stronger healthcare system.
As I have shared previously, we are determined to transform the primary healthcare landscape. And this is a journey that I have been on since many years ago as the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency CEO. in 2008. The sector-wide approach to health reform, which has brought together federal institutions, state governments, local communities, development partners, non-governmental organizations, our traditional institutions that we revere so much, to form a coherent line of an action. And this year, we are positioned to expand the impact of our sector-wide approach in very practical terms. In view of our ambitious yet achievable commitments to double the current number of primary healthcare facilities in Nigeria that are functional by 2027. I'm pleased to report to you that in 2025, 40% of all the primary healthcare facilities that have been assessed at level 1 during our thorough diagnostic process will be upgraded to level 2, therefore significantly increasing the availability of the facilities that are capable of delivering integrated sexual and reproductive health services, including family planning and post-procedural care across all states of the Federation, and maternal and child health services.
Now, in response to the Ebola outbreak in Uganda, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has increased monitoring at the country's entry points, including the airports. The agency has also advised Nigerians to avoid non-essential travel to affected regions. In a public health advisory, Dr. Jide Idris, the Director General of the NCDC, highlighted that there have been no reported cases of Ebola in Nigeria at this time. However, the NCDC, in collaboration with relevant agencies, is revising its emergency preparedness plan. Surveillance measures have been strengthened, particularly at international airports, and efforts to improve Ebola testing capabilities are ongoing. The NCDC says it is focused on preventing the spread of the virus and enhancing the country's readiness for any potential cases. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the news continues in the east of the continent, where Djibouti security forces have carried out a drone strike near the Ethiopian border, killing 8 rebel fighters and an unknown number of civilians. The country's defense ministry confirmed the attack on Sunday, stating it targeted the Armed Front for the Restoration of Unity and Democracy, FRUDA, which Djibouti considers a terrorist group. Authorities acknowledged civilian casualties and launched an investigation. Now, while Ethiopian media reported the strike happened inside Ethiopia, Djibouti insists it occurred within its borders. FRUDA has been engaged in armed rebellion since 1991, claiming to defend a far ethnic interests. Djibouti, strategically located along key global shipping routes, hosts major U.S. and French military bases. Now, the United Nations has condemned a series of deadly attacks on civilians across Sudan, including shelling at a market in Omdurman that killed at least 60 people. Now, UN humanitarian coordinator Clementine Nkweta Salami claimed the attacks horrific and indiscriminate. Pro-democracy lawyers say Adla Rifai from the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, struck the market in army-controlled Omdurman. Meanwhile, an airstrike on an RSF-held area in Khartoum killed 2 civilians. A fighting between the Sudanese army and RSF has raged since April 2023, with renewed violence in Darfur and North Kordofan. Nkweta Salami urged an end to the conflict, stating that the suffering of Sudanese civilians has gone on for too long. Meanwhile, pro-government militias in the Democratic Republic of Congo are training new recruits to fight against the M23 rebel group, which has begun advancing south after seizing key territory in eastern Congo. Now, despite being under-resourced compared to the Rwanda-backed M23, militias supporting the Congolese armed forces are receiving critical food supplies from private donors. The conflict in eastern Congo has intensified, with M23's recent gains raising concerns about further instability. Now, the Congolese government has accused Rwanda of backing M23, a claim Rwanda denies.
alobaka soki mobali aliete akozwa force te akosala ato baeli biso pona kobondela pona kobatela mboka na biso soki toliete tokozwa force te vraiment nasengeli pepa bakonzi basalisa nyoso po tozwa ata na sapato pona musala.
Nous avions entraîné nos compatriotes ici pendant 3 jours déjà sont déjà aptes à toutes les gymnastiques que nous sommes en train de leur offrir. Il y a les sauts de crapaud et consorts, il y a les rampages, et il y a d'autres que je ne voulais pas donner ici pour ne pas donner secret à nos ennemis parce que vous savez que nous sommes en train d'y aller d'ici bientôt. Mais je voulais seulement rassurer que nos compatriotes ici sont bel et bien formés dans des gymnastiques pour les chats de bataille.
Kule kabisa itatusaidia kwa kuleta force kule kwetenda pambana kwa kuwa vita inapiganiwa mufaso zote mutumbu na munguvu.
All right, now let's come back to Nigeria for a bit. Residents of Bello Street, Ketu, are crying out to the authorities after their buildings were marked for destruction. Now, the residents claim that the demolition process is illegal. Our correspondent, Bernarda Kede, is currently in Bello Street, Ketu, as we speak, and now joins us live to give us updates on the demolition going on. Good afternoon, Bernard. What is the update from where you are?
Good afternoon. Look, it's quite dramatic over here. So I'm at Bello Street in Ketu area. We got a distress call stating that the residents of this area are calling for assistance. Their buildings are about to be demolished. Truly on arrival here, you could tell from the crowd around me that there is something going on, and there are certain buildings that have been marked with red ink, probably for demolition. But the funny part is, nobody has agreed to speak with the press. You would think that with this crowd around me, there'll be persons who will be willing to speak and explain, first of all, what exactly is going on, why their buildings are being marked for demolition, or even why they made the distress call in the first place to journalists or to the media outfits. We've been here, and people are literally running away from us like we are lepers. Nobody is agreeing to speak to the press. You know, they directed us to the police. There are a number of police vehicles here with police officers. We've been directed to the police. We have spoken to the police officers who are on the ground here. And as you would expect, the police are not authorized to speak to the press except through their public relations officer or higher authority. So I'm literally in limbo, as a matter of fact. Nobody, as I speak to you now, from this multitude that you can see here, is willing to speak. It will be quite tragic if eventually buildings here are brought down and people lose their buildings or their houses when they could have actually spoken to the press and found a way to push their grievances to the appropriate authorities. I'm hoping that while we are still here, maybe, or in the next couple of minutes or hours, we'll be able to get some people who can speak so we can get to the root of the issue and see how we can render some assistance or at least push forth the cries of the people. But unfortunately, till now, from while we've been here up until now, not one person has agreed to speak to us.
Okay, Bernard, well, so in all of your findings, it means that at this point, we don't even know if there was a prior notice, seeing as the people do not want to talk. I would like for us to try again, if there's someone on site that you can just approach and see if they will be willing to speak to us.
Not one, blessings. I have tried. They are literally running away. Right? The reason why there's nobody behind me is because they're just standing here and watching like we're doing some kind of display. I'll pan around and you'll see. If I move the camera, nobody wants to speak. It's disturbing. You know, it's quite disturbing. Not one person wants to speak. The young men you are seeing here with the sledgehammers are the ones who I'm told have been pulling down the fences of the buildings that you can see around. But approaching them, not one person. Nobody wants to speak. I've just been hearing, you know, side talks, side conversations of people saying, oh, we didn't get prior notice, we didn't get enough notice. But reaching them and saying, just tell me what exactly is going on, nobody is willing. Sir, please, would you like to speak with us? Would you like to speak with us to explain?
Eventually, and of course,
I don't know if they're camera shy or there's something that they're avoiding or if there's a conspiracy of silence, but nobody is saying anything.
Okay, so eventually we're going to see, I mean, just get as much side talk as you can and then we'll compare it to what officials say. It's quite unfortunate that they're not willing to speak so we can at least hear their own side of the story. I would have loved to ask you what the delay is because I see that they're standing around as though they're waiting for instructions. But definitely we'll let you do more of your findings and then eventually you let us know what exactly is happening there today. But thank you so much, Bernard. Talk to you soon. Away from Nigeria now to other parts of Africa. Today marks the beginning of 3-day investing in Africa mining in Daba in Cape Town. This event brings together world-renowned speakers and industry leaders, top mining experts, and influential policymakers who will share their insights on the latest trends, technologies, and strategies shaping the future of mining. Now, the Indaba will be held under the theme Future-Proofing African Mining today, which places the focus on sustainability, economic value for the African mining sector. South African Minister of Mineral Resources, Gwede Mantashe, on Monday delivered the keynote address on behalf of South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the suspension of all future funding to South Africa, citing concerns over land expropriation policies. On his Truth Social platform, Trump claimed South Africa was confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly, in his words. Now, his comments follow a bill signed by President Cyril Ramaphosa allowing the government to offer nil compensation in some cases of land expropriation. Critics, including Elon Musk, have raised concerns comparing it to Zimbabwe's past land seizures. However, Pretoria insists the law ensures fair negotiations with landowners. With land ownership still largely in white hands 3 decades after apartheid, the issue remains deeply divisive.
Happening in South Africa, the leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that. It's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
Still on the relationship between the U.S. and South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa rejected Monday assertions by Donald Trump that South Africa was confiscating land and said he was ready to explain his government's land reform policy to his U.S. counterpart. Now, Ramaphosa says he's looking forward to engaging with the Trump administration over the recently adopted Expropriation Act land reform policy and issues of bilateral interest. This follows the U.S. statement on Sunday on cutting trade and aid to South Africa in response to the signing of the act by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, in a statement, Ramaphosa said he's certain that the engagements will share a better and common understanding over these matters. And now to discuss this, we're joined by Ernest Van Zyl, the head public relations AfriForum. He joins us from Pretoria. Ernest, thank you so much for joining us. Now, the South African government has issued a statement responding to Donald Trump's remarks. What is your take on both the government's response to Trump's decision to cut trade ties?
Well, when it comes to the response from Donald Trump, me and AfriForum are just very relieved that someone as prominent and as powerful as Trump is shining a light and taking action again, shining a light on the issue and taking action against South African government, which is targeting the private property rights through the Expropriation Act of South Africans. That the signing of that act was a direct attack on private property rights. It was a reckless, ideologically extremist thing to do, and I don't think anyone can be shocked that countries like the United States are taking a hardline stance saying this is unacceptable, what are you doing, asking real tough questions. And we welcome the investigation that Donald Trump has announced, saying that he will investigate the matter, because truth fears no investigation. AfriForum will play our role as well in making sure that the facts get out there in regards to how private property rights are threatened in South Africa, but we will also be challenging the act in court here domestically.
Right. Now, during Trump's first term, there was lobbying against land expropriation by his officials. Now, do you think that his latest comments are influenced by AfriForum's advocacy?
Well, I can't really see into the president's heart, so I can't really say exactly what animated him to make that statement. But From AfriForum's side, what I do know and that I can confirm is that AfriForum has built up a very long list of international friends and contacts over the years. And as soon as the Expropriation Act was signed, we made sure that all of those contacts of ours overseas knew what the implications of this act were, knew the risks within it, and knew how it was going to be fought, how it was going to be fought by civil society organizations like AfriForum. So our role is an educating role. Our role is exposing what the South African government does and holding up a mirror to the South African government so that it has nowhere to hide.
So still speaking of your role, the role of AfriForum, what is your position on land expropriation itself? Do you think that Trump's decision to cut aid and trade with South Africa is justified? I know that you hinted at that, but how would this impact the country?
So AfriForum's stance is that expropriation without compensation is wrong and should be opposed. And our message is to any international actors that want to push and put pressure on the South African government is that they should target the politicians with their sanctions that are pushing through these extremist policies. They shouldn't blanket sanction South Africa, which will punish innocent, normal citizens. Our message has been for years and is still the same, that the politicians that are pushing these destructive, evil laws need to be laser-focused, targeted by sanctions rather than targeting the entire country. And we think that message is reaching the right people. Right.
Okay. Still speaking of your assessment of Trump's administration, how would you say that he's fared so far? I know that it might seem too soon to tell, but do you think his approach signals a difficult road ahead for African nations?
Well, my analysis can only really apply to his decisions, particularly affecting Africa and in particular South Africa. But I would say it is actually a blessing in disguise when Donald Trump says that there will be no more free handouts to countries all across the world. I think that's a very good thing for Africa, where Africa can stand on it, can learn to stand on its own 2 feet, build the infrastructure and the capability to not be dependent on aid for basic services and for basic functionality. I think that's a very good step in the right direction. States in Africa being completely dependent on the whims of another state in regards to receiving things like, for example, aid, I don't think is an ideal situation. So I think in the end, in the long, there might be short-term pain, but long-term gain. In regards to sanctions on South African politicians specifically, maybe that's why AfriForum is asking for that specific laser-focused approach to ensure that politicians feel the pain of the policies that they're pushing rather than the regular South Africans out there. But I think what African nations can expect from a Trump administration, I mean, it's still up for speculation, but at the same time, I would speculate that they need to expect some tough love, a cold shoulder, the message that you have to sort out these things on your own, no more free handouts. And as I said, maybe in the long term, that's a very good thing for Africa.
Right, Ernest Venzel, Head Public Relations, AfriForum, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Pretoria. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for the opportunity. Goodbye.
Goodbye. All right, South Africa's Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber, has announced plans to significantly upgrade the visa system and enhance biometric technology. Now, this initiative aims to streamline the immigration process and bolster national security efforts. Speaking to News Central, Minister Schreiber said the modernization aims at combating illegal immigration effectively.
So this is always the two sides of the coin that we need to keep in mind. We want to prevent people that we don't want in this country from coming in illegally, but we do want to attract those that will help us actually build South Africa and create jobs. So you're absolutely right. We need to continue to invest in improving our visa system. We've made really major progress over the last few months. The visa backlog that started out at over 306,000 applications, with some people waiting 10 years already for an outcome, is really in its final stages of being cleared. We're well over 90% of that work being done. And what we're looking at now is to really improve the visa system also through technology. So we need to move away from manual and paper-based processes. I mean, we cannot have handwritten visas in the year 2025. We need to get into a space where you can apply apply online for a South African visa, again where technology can assist you to make sure that you don't get a visa unless you are actually entitled to one, and then to have that outcome issued to you also more quickly and also in a digital format. So getting that right is going to really significantly grow tourism, and in some cases when it comes to those really scarce skills that our economy needs, it's going to help us to obtain those skills and make South Africa a more attractive destination for investment. What Home Affairs really is doing is investing in technology. There are really two sides to what we can do on this front. Firstly, we need to secure the process for how someone obtains a document, and specifically then also a passport. If the face of the applicant or the biometrics doesn't actually match the face and the biometrics of the person entitled to that document, then technology can secure that process.
Now to stories outside the African continent. Protesters took to the streets of Houston, Texas, marching against President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. Now demonstrators held up placards and Mexican flags.
No somos criminales, como dice Trump. Él es el criminal. Él es el convicto, como quien dice. La gente viene a trabajar, a hacer una vida honesta.
Now to business. Nigeria's shift from petrol to compressed natural gas, CNG, is facing setbacks due to a severe shortage of conversion kits, delaying a widely anticipated energy transition. Despite government-backed initiatives under President Bola Tinubu to convert public transport vehicles and encourage private adoption, supply chain constraints have stalled the progress. Now, conversion centers, particularly in Lagos and Ogun State, struggle to meet demand despite available technicians and facilities. Now, with rising fuel costs and economic pressures, frustrated motorists are left uncertain about CNG's future as a viable alternative. Urgent action is needed to resolve supply bottlenecks and sustain momentum for cleaner energy adoption. And now to sports. Nigeria fell 1-3 to South Africa in the Davis Cup World Group 2 playoffs in Pretoria, ending their bid for promotion. Philip Hennin sealed South Africa's victory with a hard-fought 6-7, 6-4, 6-4 win over Christopher Bullis, securing their place in the Group 2 tie this September. Now, early on, Nigeria suffered a setback when the doubles team of Canis Abua and Michael Emmanuel lost, putting the team under pressure. Now, Bullis needed a win to keep Nigeria's hopes alive, but fell short despite taking the first set. With the defeat, Team Nigeria will return to Africa Group 3 in the World Cup of Tennis, missing out on the chance to advance to a higher division. Still talking sports, Aston Villa signed Marcus Rashford on loan from Manchester United for the rest of the season on Sunday, ending the England international's exile under Ruben Amorim at Old Trafford. Rashford, who had not played for United since the 12th of December, was linked with AC Milan and Barcelona, but high wages deterred a move. Villa will cover up to 90% of his salary and hold a £40 million option to sign him permanently. Now, Villa strengthening their attack after sealing Jean Duran at Al Nassr for £64 million. Rashford, who has 138 United goals, now aims to regain form under Unai Emery as Villa push for Champions League qualification. Well, that's all on news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We did tell you that several killed in attack on Amegu Nkalaga community in Ebonyi State. We also mentioned Nigerian Army dismantles 12 illegal refineries, arrests 16 in Niger Delta. And finally, we told you that President Ramaphosa has rejected President Trump's assertions over land expropriation policies, seeks engagement with U.S. over issues. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, StarTimes, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Osugu.